Well, Wes, in the latest release of VRP, or the Veritas Resiliency Platform 2.0, there's a new component called the data mover. Can you explain a little bit about it?
Absolutely.
All right.
So in VRP 2.0, we introduced a new VMware virtual machine replication appliance called the Data Mover Gateway. And what I have on the board here is I have Data Center 1, which is my primary data center. Data Center 2 is my secondary data center, or my disaster recovery site. And the gateway appliance that is our data mover basically runs on an ESX server that's part of a VMware high availability cluster. So I have to have ESX servers and all the associated VMs, data storage, everything is part of a VMware high availability cluster at my primary site. And we'll perform our migrations, replication, takeover operations, rehearsal operations to my DR site and a designated VMware high availability cluster over there. So the way this works is our gateway appliance will just be a guest virtual machine residing on one of the ESX servers in this cluster. Does not matter which one of these ESX servers it's running on. It just needs access to the data store. Okay? All the guests that are running in this cluster can run on any one of these ESX servers. Okay? And when we build a resiliency group designating virtual machines from this cluster, we cannot have virtual machines in the same resiliency group from another VMware HA cluster. All has to be isolated within the same cluster. Then the first one we build is when the replication will be established. The initial replication will be established. So if I chose 7, 8, and 9 to be virtual machines in my resiliency group, I will get these, which will include these 3 disks here. And I have a single disk for each one of my virtual machines. Of course, we can do multiples here. The limit is 58 disks for replication with this data mover. Total, no matter how many VMs you have.
Per gateway.
Per gateway.
Got it.
And only one gateway per HA cluster. So when this gets replicated, or when we build that resiliency group, we're going to establish, we're going to go from this high availability cluster to this particular high availability cluster to this particular data store. You can have multiple data stores, but part of the RG build is to identify the cluster you're replicating to and the data store that you're replicating your disks to. So when the first resiliency group is created, the replication will be established. Let me get the correct colors here. Replication will be established where these disks here will be replicated over to the data store at the other site. So I will get my disks, in this case, disk 7, 8, and 9 associated to my virtual machine 7, 8, and 9. Okay? I can create other resiliency groups in the same set. So let's say I create a resiliency group with these 4 virtual machines in it, which would include these 4 disks. Since I've already established the replication, basically, all we're doing is adding these as part of a replication job to the other site. So these will be now replicated over to the other site, and I will get this, using a different color here, but I think we're all on the same track. So we're 3, 4, 5, 6. And we'll get a replication going on to that site. Now, when this replication is established initially, we're going to do a syncing operation first. So basically, we use dirty region logs, and we bitmap the data in the disks, and then start copying them over to the other side. Now, syncing takes a little bit of time, but once it's fully synced, it's consistent and up to date, then we can perform migrations, we can perform takeovers, we can perform rehearsals, do resyncs after rehearsals. We can replicate this way, we do a migration this side, it turns the replication around, does a role reversal, and then we can replicate back, and then we can synchronize, or we can do our migrations back. So all operations that we have in the Veritas Resiliency Platform will be available for, with this replication tool in the VMware environment. So migrations, takeovers, rehearsals, rehearsal cleanups, and resync operations after a takeover. Okay, and there it is.
Great. I appreciate you taking us through this. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.